when I say like a hell gig, when you think of like the worst gig imaginable, do you have something in mind where you go, I don't know how I made it out of that in one piece?
I think it's when I first started comedy. When I first started being like inexperienced, I did this gig in North Carolina, and there was supposed to be a band playing afterwards, and their fans showed up early, and they had like goats and stuff like that and everything else, and like you're trying to tell your jokes and you're something da 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 like goats and stuff like that. People talking, not trying to hear your jokes. That was probably one of my worst ones in North Carolina. Uh, Florida.
So how does that even come about where, because that is so true for every comic, where it's like early on, is it we just say yes to everything. I mean, we would kind of say yes to everything now too, but you have a little bit more discretion. Is that what it is where somebody goes, hey, I got a gig if you want it, there's a band, do you want to do it? And you just go, yeah, sure, why not?
Well, it was sometimes I think it's the greenness of you just wanting to do stand up. And I was in college, so literally we didn't know about the band. We just knew that we had to be out of there by 9:15.
Oh my
So as
God.
9 o'clock showed up, all these people started coming with like goats and like weird stuff. And I'm like, I'm like, what's going on? So I had to like close out the show because I was like more experienced than other people. And you just hear like goats, band, and stuff like that, and people who just don't care about comedy because they're here to see their band. So they're just like, oh my God, how much longer does this have to go on? I'm like, oh, freak. So you're
Was it like a
literally,
country fair, or was it like the goats were there for more like dark reasons? Like, was it?
I think that maybe they're gonna sacrifice him. I don't even know, man. It was just like it was just random. It was very random that he had two goats with him.
Oh my God.
Just
That's
two
the first
goats with
time I've
him.
ever talked to a comic that's had to perform with live animals around. That's 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 a whole nother. It's hard enough to make people pay attention, but to make barn animals pay attention is
Yeah.
a real struggle. Oh, wow. So, I guess to dive into that a little bit more, when you're on stage or wherever you're at, often there isn't even a stage of these kind of things. Now you can sort of look at the situation and go, all right, this is how I handle it. This is just, we have to run out the clock and try to get a win here. But in that moment, can you kind of remember the feeling of like, what was it, panic? Was it you just had no idea, so ignorance is bliss? What do you think it was?
It was more frustration because it's just like, there was a potential to be a good crowd because it was a small crowd, but when this large band pulled up, they were loud. They had their groupies and everything else. So you just feel like you're not confident with your jokes a little bit. You're confident for doing your time, but not confident for these ultimate distractions. Because it got to the point where you knew that if you offended the people in the band, no one was going to rock you because everyone was here for the band.
Right,
Like that audience member
right,
that you tell shut up to, and everyone's like, whoa, what the whoa? We love Carol. She's in one of us.
right.
It's like treading like light water. I think the other one was this place called Footprints in New York. And it's infamously known of being like this rough Caribbean room. Everyone's like Jamaican, Haitians, and like if you're doing accents. And my friend Ibrahim just went up and he was like fighting with the crowd. And then it was my turn. So I was like, they're being mean to everyone. So it was in my head. I'm like, I'm gonna have to be aggressive as soon as I get up there. And then as soon as I got up there, they were dead quiet and listened to me. But in my head, I was like, I gotta go at them. So I was trying to come at them, and they're just like, whoa, whoa. Then they automatically flipped on me. And then all the comments like, what happened? You had him, baby. What the freak did you do? But it was like all in my head. Psyched. I was like, I got so many roast jokes for him. I'm gonna roast everything else. I had a roast joke prepared, then I forgot the roast joke, and then everyone was like, this guy ain't saying nothing. Then they just talked all over my set.
Oh, that is, I know that feeling so well, where you look at an audience and you almost are, there's like this chip on your shoulder with like, oh, I'm going to show them. I'm going to show them what's up. And you come in guns blazing and you don't even assess, like, you're too busy watching beforehand how it's going. So you don't assess once you're up there how it actually is. And 5 minutes go by, and people are like, they're dabbing their nose, that they're crying, they're upset, like, what happened? We were just sitting here, do you think, how much of it, with a bad show, with a bomb, how much of it do you think is in the comic's own head of setting themselves up for failure, and how much of it do you think is on the audience themselves? Obviously, if there's a goat in the audience, that's hard to uh, you know get over. But regular bomb, what do you think it is?
I always blame the comics, man. Always. I'll
Yeah,
never give it to the crowd, because you never give it to the crowd when you have a good set. You never say, "Oh my God, that crowd was amazing. They made my set a whole lot better." You'll never give it to the crowd when you have a good set. So you can't give it to the crowd when you have a bad set, you know?
right.
Because I guess being in New York, I've seen so many comics revive a dead room. Then I know, like Kareem Green, I've seen him literally, there's no air in this room, and then as soon as he got there, boom, blows it back up. I seen Mark Norman one time at like the bomb shelter. Crowd was dead, nobody was there, 10 people, maybe 6 people. He's running down the stairs and he goes, "Oh my God, what are we gonna do?" And he comes up and he starts hitting for like the first 4 minutes, and literally 25 people come from the bar down to the show, and it's literally a showroom. Literally a showroom. I seen Kareem Green, same thing. Like, everything's dead, the audience is weird, everything else, and Kareem addresses everything else and resuscitates it. And I was like, it's always the comic, because you're in control. You got the microphone. You could say something to get them on your side. You could do anything else, even if it's, you have enough experience to assess any situation and try to win them over. That's the goal, to try to win them over.
Right, right. It's getting this group of people to go, however many it is, to go on this ride with you for
Yeah.
however long you're on stage, and to sort of suspend all other things and say, we're with you and I'm with you right back, you know. And just, you said, comics that can revive a dead room. On the opposite of that, I'm sure you have seen when it's a hot room and a comic goes up and you go, well, this is, we're hitting them out of the park. Just go up there and talk. You know what I mean? And they go up there and maybe they attack the audience, or there's just something off, and it takes it out of it. And if you're standing there watching it, what's going through your head? Like, if you've already gone up, it almost doesn't matter. But if you're still have to go up, I think it's the maddest I get at other comedians.
Dude, I get so upset when I see a comic just have a perfect layup and you shoot a 3-pointer. Like, why would you do that? What? Just bunt the ball. Just bunt it. It's
Right.
already there. Use the jokes that work, everything else, but a comic will take an experience and offend somebody. Or like when the crowd is hot and it's maybe 25 good people, and then that comic makes those 25 people leave. I'm like, oh, freak.
Right.
I hate those
Right.
situations where it's already set up, and then that comic just like, no, don't do those jokes. That then the crowd just like, up, the crowd's gone.
Yeah, I also, you had said something really, I think, poignant about, Mark in that situation was able to perform to a small audience, and a bigger audience comes. So many, well, I shouldn't say so many, but I see comics sometimes, and maybe it's the greenness that you referred to earlier. See so many comics that they see a small audience, and their first thing is to combat that, is to say, well, this isn't good, this show isn't good, sorry, the show sucks, sorry, it's just the five of you. Where maybe somebody like yourself or Mark, they're on stage and they go, hey, we're in this together, where you have to play to the room, whatever it is.
Dude, it might be the culture. It's the culture of the comic. I noticed that, like New York, I say New York's where the greatest comics live in New York City and perform in New York City, but there's a culture of some of the big comics are always working on stuff. So a lot of people think they can work on stuff, but they haven't been allowed that. If you have 2 specials, of course you can come up and work on stuff because you've proved to the audience you are a name that they know you will eventually be funny. Sometimes it's people who don't even have a name for themselves. It's like, how are you just like during this pandemic? Like, why are you open mic in these outdoor shows? Like, what is? What's the point of that? There's 40 people out here outside in a pandemic, and you're doing jokes that you just thought of on the train.
Right. Right.
For
I don't get it. I really, you said it best. You're doing jokes that you thought of on the train. And you go to some of these shows and you see people, it's like they're reading their drafts of their tweets. It's like, or they go up and they do this. How's everybody's quarantine been? Bad. Nobody wants to talk about that.
dude, it's such the thing about us is I'm from my stand North Carolina by the way of Florida, right? So in Florida, we've done full audience members. I've done this show one time where the owner was trying to stick it to us. We're down in like outside of Tampa, like towards St. Pete. And the owner already agreed to pay us, right? He already paid us. I was featuring. And the owner goes, there's only 2 people in the crowd. Let's call the show. And we're like, well, you're going to pay us? He goes, no, I'm not going to pay you. He's the booker, not the owner, the booker. Why would I pay you guys? There's only 2 people. You guys didn't do the show. I was like, well, we'll do the show then. For 2 people? F yeah, we'll do the show for 2 people. And the host was killing. I was going well, and the headliner did it, and we stuck it to him. And I was like, nothing in New York City will make me ever feel like I can't give a show to 2 people because I've done it before. I've done it when there's 3 people. I've done everything else. So if the ever, like in my mind, it's just like I left my home. I left stability. I left everything else. I'm still stable, but I left all that good weather, beautiful people to come up here. Like I cannot just go halfway in. I cannot give a performance. I cannot try because I don't know what can happen, Those 3 people, like this past weekend, we did a show, and Saturday's show was not that good because it's Thanksgiving, so it wasn't that many people, maybe like 10, but in a room full of 150 people, it's spread all the way out. And I'm telling the host, I was like, don't worry about it, man. Don't freaking, just do it. Just freaking have fun. Make them feel like a show, and you learn those skills of just like breaking that 4th wall and be like, all right, where are you guys from? How's everything else? Like, let's talk to each other. There's 10 people here. Let's do it. But in New York, 10 people is a crowd. 10 people is an audience.
That's a hot show.
That's a hot show. That's a freaking hot show. So like when I got to New York and like the open mics are just nothing but comics, I was like very like thrown off a little bit. I was like, how the what? Like what? Nobody wants to kill here. Nobody wants to like do good jokes. It's all about just, I didn't understand it. Like I didn't know what was funny anymore. Cause I was like in Brooklyn. I was like, what are all these comics laughing at? I don't get these inside jokes. Everyone had herpes and stuff like that and kept telling herpes jokes. And then I was trying to laugh, and then people got mad at me for laughing. I was like, oh, he's talking about herpes. He goes, I have herpes. I'm like, oh, freak, my bad.
So that is so true of, because I started in Pittsburgh and I moved here, and it's like the same thing. I came here and, to me, this city is not a city there's a lot of easier cities to live in. And we're experiencing right now where, stand-up isn't, if stand-up is taken away, you go, well, what do I have? What do I have here? So comedy survives, and now people are like yourself do shows outside and stuff. They're finding ways around things. But if you are like, if you are here and you're working at comedy and you're not thinking about it almost 24/7, there are so many cheaper, easier places to live. That's where you should be. Like it boggles my mind when I talk to other comedians, or even in my own head when I feel lazy. I'm like, what are you doing? Are you crazy? You think you're going to take the time off, because you just don't feel like writing today? Like, you can do that from anywhere.
Dude, there's so many times when I got here, it was just nothing but Chicago comics, and they all kept the work to themselves, and the Atlanta comics. So I went down to North Carolina and I recruited all these North Carolina comics. I was like, y'all got to come. There's strength in numbers. We got to come. We got to do it and everything else. But I tell some of the comics, like some of my friends, I was like, during this pandemic in the beginning, I was like, why are you not out here? Don't give me an excuse of not being out here. And some of the comics from Florida, they're out here. I was like, go home if you want to go home.
Right.
We didn't move out here to just sit at, like, they can afford to do that because some of these guys got their parents take care of them and everything else. I'm like, why are you just sitting in your house? For what? How are you going to get better tonight? Even if I'm not on a show, I'll go to a show because I know eventually somebody's going to drop out. Someone's going to be late. something's gonna happen. I just can't sit at home. Like I'm trying to be a stand-up comic the rest of my life, you know? Like I'm not gonna
Right.
walk the dog the rest of my life. But I think it's because you're from a road state. You're from a road state. I'm from a road state. So it's just like we're from that art form where you're performing all the time, you know? Where you have
Yeah.
to give a show. You have to give a show. Like some people in New York, if you start here, if you start doing open mics, you really haven't seen a full house until you leave. Like open mics in Florida, you got 10 minutes to figure it out. It's
Right.
a long time.
Yes, that's a long time for anybody's first year or two. That can be a long time, you
Yeah.
know. And you're right where when you come from a sort of when you come from outside of this bubble of New York comedy, you know one how good it can be, so you're chasing that, and you also know how bad it can be.
Yeah.
So even on your worst days here, it's still like, well, I didn't drive 3 hours. I didn't lose all this money. I didn't.
Oh,
The hotel didn't flood. Whatever it is. It's like there's so many things as like you were saying, when you come from these places where it's just it could be a disaster, so you go, wow, I've handled this before. 5 people in a bar, in a loud bar, this is normal work.
I did this redneck bar in Arcadia, Florida.
Oh
The
my
most
god.
redneck backwoods place. Now they were fun, but my feature act, I brought all my friends. I didn't realize all the comics were black. We just did a whole black show, right? But we all know how to do, mainstream rooms, everything else. And my buddy Rio kept telling a joke about like his joke, something about like uh I got some people on my family tree, some of them are still hanging there, right? He said that joke. This dude comes out and goes, "Hey man, that's the tree where we used to hang all the people in our town. Come on, let me show you." And he's trying to take him. He's trying to take him to the tree. And I was like, "Hey, if you don't get back in this car, man," because they're like, "No, we just want to show you everything, man. We just want to show you everything." And in our minds, we were just like, "All right, man, this is gonna be a tough gig." But then eventually, they just want to have fun. They
Right.
just wanted to have fun, and sometimes it's like perception. Perception is so different when you come from a state. 'Cause I was like, if people come to a comedy show, they're coming to laugh.
Right.
Like
Right.
even if you support Trump or even if you support Biden, if you're like as soon as you get out of the city, Long Island's a Trump state, all that other stuff is a Trump state. So when comics come out there, I was like, all right, if you have a good Trump joke, they'll laugh at it if it's funny.
Right.
But if
Yeah,
it's not
that
funny,
that's funny is funny at the end of the day, and that's really what I think we all, as crazy as this business is, we can all rest a little bit with, is that at the end of the day, if you're funny, you're okay. You're good. You're safe. And everybody, for the most part, like you said, wants to have a good time. They want to have fun.
that's all they
You
want to do. The
know,
girls just want to have fun.
right? Exactly. When
Well, what's it like in Pennsylvania though? Like what part of Pennsylvania?
So I started in Pittsburgh, in
Oh,
Pennsylvania. I played a lot of Western Pennsylvania, sort of the fire hall scene,
mhm.
the VFWs and stuff. I'm sure it was very similar for you, where they go, we're fundraising or whatever it is, or we're doing a church fundraiser,
Oh
and we
yeah.
do dinner and a comedy show, and you go up there, and they go, you're going to do 30 minutes. There's a priest in the audience. The fire chief's wife is here. She doesn't like any jokes about being overweight or something. Please don't mention that. And we'll have a piece of stuffed chicken breast for you when you come off stage.
Stuff
Like
chicken breast.
that's it. That's every show. So you just start to go, all right, well, I guess this is what we're doing. And so when you get a hold of a good audience or a half decent audience, you go, all right, now we can do something here. These people, they get subtlety, they get nuance. I don't have to beat them over the head with my premises.
Dude, sometimes it's in our heads. I freaking did this show at this billionaire's house when I was in New York.
Mhm.
And he's worth $1 billion. It's to the point where I went to the apartment asking, I texted a lady. I was like, hey, can you tell me like what apartment number is? And she goes, it's the building. I was like, oh, freak. The whole building is here? This billionaire's house, right? And they're like boosters for my job, right? And that's when I had the feeling of like I'm a real comic, because I came there, my eye was swollen because I was teaching this kid had peanuts and my eye was swollen, so I came there with my eye swollen, and my one eye is red, and I'm trying to I had sunglasses on, and then the guy tell me, he goes, take your sunglasses off. And he goes, oh my god, this is like really bad. And he goes, well, keep your sunglasses off. So I'm like dressed up, and I'm sitting there in this mansion, and he goes, it's 5 floors in New York City, and the backside is a pool back there,
Oh my
and
God.
there's like a field, and there's like a bottom. My changing room was down by a pool hall. In the bottom of the basement was a pool hall, an elevator, and I was allergic to peanuts, and I'm severely allergic to seafood. And I kid you not, I know rich people put seafood in everything, so I said I'm not going to eat any peanuts or seafood. And the only people that looked like me were the servers. So I'm talking to like the other lady was there. She was a black lady. She was a guest, but she was like embarrassing me. She kept like, "Is this a night? Oh, do I need to take my shoes off?" I was like, "Keep your shoes on. What the freak? Stop embarrassing us." So we we go to this place, and there's the Hispanic dudes and the Haitian dudes in the kitchen. And I'm saying like, hey man, I'm allergic to like peanuts, fish, man. I just anything not like that guy. So this other guy comes up and goes, hey, we have tacos. I was like, oh good, I love tacos. These are cod tacos. I was like, oh, I never had that before. So I take the tacos and I eat 3 of them, right? And I'm just sitting there like, I was like, man, what the freak is up with these tacos? And the guy goes, hey dog, that's fish. I said, no, you said it was cod. He goes, cod's a fish. I was like, oh frick. So I feel my throat closing up. I couldn't stab myself with the EpiPen because I would have to go to the hospital. So I go down to the basement and I pour all the soap in my mouth, because I know rich people have poisonous soap. You know, rich soap is like, I don't know what type of soap they get, but I know it's poisonous. So I pour it all in my mouth, right? And I take off all my clothes and I'm throwing up. And so I'm throwing up all over this place, throwing up everywhere. And like there's like cameras, so I know the cameras see like this black booty just sitting there throwing up everywhere. And the lady comes downstairs like, are you ready? Are you sure you're ready? I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm like throwing up. And the reason why I couldn't just cancel the gig, because I already spent the money in my head. I already spent this chunk load of money that they gave me. I've already blown it already. I was like, I already knew what I'm putting it to. So I'm throwing up. And I go to there's like a movie theater, and I'm like laying in the movie theater. I'm like praying. I was like, God, if you just give me 15 minutes, that's all I need. Just 15 minutes to get through this thing. Just 15. I throw up again. I go upstairs, and it's like they're just rich. They're just rich and sedity, and there's a kid at the table, and the kid is like 10. So everyone's looking at the kid to prove it's funny, until I was like, you know what? F it. F it. I've come too far to just be intimidated and take a bomb, because, and I wasn't bombing, but it was just like to the point where they weren't really laughing. They're like, and then I started doing, I did this Bill Cosby joke, and next you know, I was like, boom, boom. And I was like, oh, you guys like dirty stuff? Okay, let's do dirty stuff. And I was like, stop looking at the kid. And I'm sitting at this table, and the CEO, his wife talks to me, and she goes, what's it like doing stand-up, like, you know, as a hobby? And I was like, she goes, yeah, like you must do it like once a week, once a month. Like, you know, is this like a hobby for you? I said, I do this every night. Really? As a teacher? I said, yeah, I moved out here for this. And that was the first time, like I told, like people at my work, they didn't know I did stand up like that. You know, they thought I was like a
Right.
blues musician. They didn't know, you know, they don't. I had blocked everybody on Instagram, because, you know, sometimes you don't want them to see that you're running off 2 hours of sleep and stuff. So I just unblocked everybody. I was like, you know what? F it. This is who I am, you know? It's like the
Right.
Bible says, like, they know you by the fruits that you bear. I was like, I just did a freaking show for the CEO of my company, right? And she just asked me, she goes, you're really, wow. She goes, you're a stand-up concert? Yeah, every night. And she was like so surprised, but at the same time, I had to be like, yeah, I just coughed up and threw up dang near 6 cod tacos, 3 cod
Right.
tacos, almost
And
choked to
two
do the
hundred and
show.
fifty dollars worth of soap. You know, like,
Drank all the soap, everything else. And it took that extreme method for me to be all like, no, this is what I came here to do. Like, if I can do that,
I've
what?
never heard of a more accurate description of what it means to do stand-up comedy. You know, viscerally, it is poison. Put poison into your body, and then try to get it out of your body in enough time to do a show. Uh,
Get
and
poison, get poison out of your body.
right, that's it. That's you're just trying to expel poison every night. it's so funny that you say, like, it's not until once you accept it, once you say what it is,
Yeah.
then it's becoming. And I remember I was maybe 4 years in or something like that, 3 years in. I was at some Christmas party with, like, there was a couple other comedians there in Pittsburgh, and one guy was on the radio, and older sort of road comic. Nobody really pays those kind of guys attention anymore, right? They're just sort of, he's grumpy, whatever. And I'm talking to him, and he just hits me with this out of left field. He goes, "What do you tell people you do?" And because it was true, I just told people I worked part time. I just, whatever my part time job, I said that's what I do. And he goes, "Why would anyone believe that you're a comic if you don't believe that you're a comic?"
Mm,
And it was like, that moment where everything clicks, and you go, "Okay, this is, if I'm embarrassed of this, if I feel ashamed of this, then people feed off of me." So now
yeah.
that's the only thing. It's after that moment, it was like, I'm a comic, I'm a comic, I'm a comic. You
And
know,
sometimes when you embrace who you are on stage, people love it more. Like I never used to do teacher jokes in the beginning. Then after I started, not I don't do a lot. I just say like what I do so people understand. They're just like now the crowd like trusts me more. Like no, this guy really, if he could care for a little person, maybe he cares about where his jokes. Now definitely have misdirections, but it's like a to get the crowd on your side. And sometimes they feel like when you work, you're like a part of them because you're not so far removed of a person. Like, oh, this guy's just sit in his house all day and just think of jokes. He actually works. He's actually putting in time. So they kind of respect the blue collarness that you have, you know? And I agree, like once you believe in it, and sometimes I think like just like I think in the Bible it does say like laughter is like a good dose of medicine. I remember I was at a funeral, right? My friend's passed away. He was murdered, and we're sitting there at the funeral. Everything's dark. It's heavy because like he died at like 24. He died at like 24, 25. So his mom, she's effed up. Everyone's effed up. All my friends from high school are effed up. And his mom asked me to speak at the funeral, me and my brother. And I was sitting there thinking about writing bits. I was sitting there just writing down funny stories and stuff like that, but I didn't know if I could do it. And as soon as I did, as soon as the first joke hit, just everything just lifted. Everything lifted. Everyone started realizing the memories and stuff like that. And I realized that it's not, sometimes it's like, yeah, it's so good. Sometimes we're selfish and we're just like, we're just trying to get our points across. But some people literally need it.
yeah,
Some people literally need to laugh to start crying. Some people literally need a laugh to not kill themselves. You know? Somebody
right.
literally might need a laugh to be all like, no, I was going to do something bad to this dude today, but you know what? This guy kind of made me laugh or something like that. Like, how many times have you been like bored or something like that, and that comic just makes you gut wrench laugh? Like, oh my God, I didn't think of that. Like, freak, I needed this laugh. Like, for me,
it, and
yeah.
it sparks everything. It sparks whatever it is that you need to do. Like you said, whether it's cry, or whether it's laugh, or I maybe you feel this way too. You go to a show that you're not on, you see someone and they kill, and you just go, that is what I am trying to do, and I need to go home right now and put pen to paper and start and getting working harder so I can do that. Like, sometimes those big laughs, they go, wow, there's more to this. I don't have this all figured out.
And I think that's a small thing that we've taken a part of and taken advantage of being inspired that way. I think New York, it's a little different because is the first time, like in different scenes, you really can't see a person's progress in a scene unless they're part of your class. But in New York, every class is like this. Everyone's
Hmm.
like a horse race. Everyone's running without blinders. So it's so easy to look over here. I'm like, oh, he just got a writing credit off this. Oh, this person got this. Oh, this guy. Then you start effing with your head, like, what am I not doing? How old am I? How and everything else. And you realize you just got to run your race, man. You just got to realize there's enough food for everybody. What's for you is going to be for you. So when my friends get writing gigs, I celebrate them because I'm happy. Like, look, freak, you got a writing gig. Cool. When my friend gets this or someone gets passed at the cellar, like, oh, congratulations. You're part of my class. Your wins of this. It was me and this comic, he just got a TV show, right? They greenlit his TV show, got picked up on the network. And I'm talking to him. We're sitting there taking outside. And I was like, yo, man, are y'all going to shoot your show in New York? Or are you going to shoot your stuff like this? And he backs up and he goes, are you New York Times or something? And I had to tell him, I was like, look, man, and we talk. I was like, look, I said, I understand. My bad for all these questions. I said, but I used to know a person with a credit. Now I know a person who has a whole TV show. I was
Right.
like, dude, that's a completely different thing of knowing you, man. I was like, I'm not trying to get on the show. I'm just happy that I know you and you have this. Like for me, that's
Right.
exciting, man. That's exciting knowing that I know a person who worked hard and used to go to the same shows as me and has his own TV show. And he stopped and he goes, "Dang, you right, man. My bad." He said, "Dang, yeah, I didn't see it like that." I was like, for me, man, I'm excited. I'm more excited. I know you're excited. I'm more excited for you because I remember us doing these shows together. I remember you moving from this state and me having dinner with this comic and you were there. And he goes, "Dang, you're right, man. Frick, my bad." And we just like dapped it up. But I was like, dude, I'm excited, man. I'm proud of you, man. To freak. I'm just excited that you're freaking doing this.
It's always, as much as we can belittle other comics and talk shit and stuff, there is something to be said about when you see somebody who's hustling and who's working at this, when they get a win, it's like a win for team comedy. You
Yeah.
go, all right, well, if they can do it, I know how they did it, and you just keep going. It's, I remember watching some documentary when I was first coming up, and like Seinfeld said something about like, why does it take 10 years for a new comic to break? Why does it take 10 years for someone to become wildly popular for comedy? He goes, it's because people, they don't really want to do it. They don't really want to work because there's enough for everyone that wants to do it to do it. And there's enough people out there. There's enough clubs, there's enough spots. And he goes, it's just they don't want to stay with it. And it's so that gives me some comfort in this whole thing. You go, yeah, we can all eat. We can all eat at the table.
We can all eat. And I had a situation. I was back in Tampa last week, and shows were great. The last show, it was an open mic, and I'm with this comic. His name is Wally. His first time ever hosting. And I'm seeing the nerves in his eyes. I see everything else. I was like, dude, I was there. I remember the first time I hosted here, the open mic, the guest sets, everything else. I'm telling them like, how to do everything else. And then at the end of the night, there's an open mic, and I'm like, you got to stay for the open mic. So all the comics that I came up with did it. And it's that feeling of just like I'm sitting there, we're all talking, having a good time, and I realize like this is not my scene anymore. Nothing against them, but it's just like my heart and my goals are in New York.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I'm not going to another scene again and starting back over. I was like, there's something here that I haven't accomplished, and it's the best comics in the world that are here. This pandemic has just shown me finally, okay, for the first time, we all got to rest. We all had a time to just, we literally were stuck in our house. But this pandemic has showed me that the first time in a long time, every comic gets to watch each other.
Right.
We're not at clubs anymore, everything else. So every comic, you literally can't say this comic isn't funny because you've seen them on several shows before. So it's not like you
Yeah.
can't vouch for anybody yet. Like freaking me and Chris Red did a couple shows together, and I was like, wow, when does this ever would have happened if I wasn't at the stand or the cellar or anything else? We're literally in a park in front of 40 people. Oh, this comic is at the park. This comic's at the park. So now it's like you start to realize, like, no, I belong in this scene. I
Yeah.
belong here. I
You
belong on every show, every room I walk in. I belong into. Maybe I don't have the credits right now. Maybe you might not know who I am. But when I get off that stage, you're gonna realize like the show didn't take a halt. There wasn't like a dip in the show. Like, oh no, I belong in the scene now.
when you get to, I think that's a constant struggle, to stay in that place. But whether you're there temporarily or for permanently, it's so relaxing to just go, yeah, I made the right decision. I I am supposed to do this. I'm supposed to be here. I'm glad I gave up everything I had in that other place to come here and have it be harder. And it's such a moment of like, yeah, I feel like a real comic. I feel like for the first time, maybe in months or weeks or ever, you feel like, yep, I'm a real comic.
Those moments happen, man. Those moments happen. And I felt it when I got to New York. When I got to New York, I had that moment happen. I had a dope experience. DC Benny one time, we met in Long Island, and you know how sometimes you meet road comics, they tell you stuff when they come to New York City, and then you get here, they don't answer their phones, or
Right.
you realize that they have no pull at all. What the pull they're saying, they come to your town. But DC Benny, we met in Long Island. I'm telling all these stories about how I grew up, and he's laughing. And he goes, "Hey, I got a show at this at the Cellar. Would you like to do it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I would like to do it." But I thought he was just, gassing me up. Then he calls me, "Come do it." And I was like, "Freak, I think this guy's dead serious." And I do it. And there was that moment in New York, that first year where you start to like question everything and you're just like, these freaking mics, these freaking everything else. And then you start doing other stuff. And then when I did it, like every time I've had that down moment, something has happened where it's just like, boom, I'm sharing the stage with like comics that I freaking grew up watching. And
Right.
DC's like, he's like, "Yeah, you belong. That was dope. I brought you because you're funny." And I was like, "Oh wow." Sometimes that little bump of just like, okay, this is the best club in the world, best club on this side of the Mississippi River, right? I did it. I'm not past there, but I did it. And I was like, "Oh wow." That was the motivation to be all like, "Oh, this is just a room. It's
Right.
just 40 people in a room. It's just
And
20
let
people in a
me
room."
do whatever I can to get back there. It's once you've tasted it, you go, all right, let's keep it moving so I can come back here one day. It doesn't
Or
have
just
to be like
yeah,
that,
or beyond that, some people,
right?
get stuck there, but it's just like to know that what you do and what you write is funny, and that it means something, not just means something to you, but you care about it. I think the only thing that breaks my heart is when I see comics that don't care anymore. Like
Yeah,
they just don't care. I understand the industry can beat them down, but I'm like, man, that's a waste of 6 minutes I could have had. Oh my god. You just BS'd around for 7 minutes. Oh, that hurts my heart. Oh my God.
yeah,
Freak, man. Then it's the networking thing. Me knowing how to, hey, how are, hey, what's up, man? Hey, it's the networking thing. And then the not showing people that you're anxious, or showing people that you're here to support a show, but at the same time, I'm trying to get on this platypus, man. Like, what the freak? Come on now. I know they got some spots available. And
right.
you don't want to be too thirsty for a spot. You don't want to do this. You don't want to do that. Then you got people hitting you up for spots that haven't did stand up in 6 months. I'm like, what? Then you got comments hitting you up from like LA. I was like, dude, I'm trying to get food for myself. What do you mean get food for you?
Yeah,
So
right.
it's
Exactly.
that feeling of just, but that's New York, and that's what I like about it. I was like, yeah, it's cold, but it ain't that cold.
Yeah, it's still, no matter what happens here, it won't be like 3 o'clock in the morning, you're driving on some back road and you're like, what have I done? Like, it'll never be that. It'll just never be that bad, you
Deers
know?
running crazy, deers on the side of the road.
Right.
I think
You're
I
like,
saw
if I
some.
stop, I'll die. Like, someone will kill me here. Yeah. Let me ask you before we get out of here. I love asking this to other comics. You bomb, let's say you have a bad show, you bomb. What is your post bomb vice? For me, it's usually calling another comic that I'm close with and just going off about the show. And I'm not so much anymore, but there was a time where fast food. It was just a fast food feast after a bomb. What's your sort of vice? Do you have a vice?
We used to say this all the time. We go, when you lose, don't lose the lesson. That was like
That's
on
a
the remember the Dave Chappelle show when he said
Yeah,
that? When you
yeah,
lose, don't lose the lesson. We used to say that in Tampa a lot. But now my bombs are completely different. What people might not see as a bomb, I see as a bomb now. Like if I did 20 minutes of the material I did before and I didn't work on any new jokes or didn't blend, that's a bomb for me. Like my bombs are completely different now.
right.
But I say that all the time. When you lose, don't lose the lesson. And I'll go back, I'll listen to the audio, like, freak, I could have did this. Dang, that was a tag right there. Or I was recording something this Sunday in Tampa, and I was mad the guy lit me early because he forgot this time. I'm supposed to do 30. He lit me at 21 minutes. He lit me there. So for me, in my mind, I feel like it was a good set. I was like, it was a bomb because I didn't do this joke, I didn't do this one, I didn't do this. That's what I do. So I say, when you lose, don't lose a lesson. There's a lesson to be learned anyway at the end.
I think that is for if there are any young relative in the term of how long you've been doing comics out there, that might be the biggest takeaway from anything could say, like, that's it right there, is that I remember someone told me, learn how to bomb successfully, because if you bomb, then you got to learn how to do it, and you got to learn how to make sure you don't do it as much. And it's true. Everything you said is accurate. Let's see. Let's look at the tape. Let's see where
And I
I
tell
got sacked.
comics, don't try to bomb. Try to do well.
Yeah,
Try
yeah,
to do well.
exactly.
Some people take that advice seriously. I'm like, up, Reggie. I don't know if you know Reggie Edwards. Do you know Reggie Edwards? He calls himself
I don't
Reggie
know.
Kush. So these comics, one comic bombed, right? And another comic bombed back to back. And Reggie is hosting, goes, dang, it's a terrorist attack. It's a terrorist attack. He goes, it's 9/11. Everybody bombed. He said, dang, that's another tower. Dang, they must be terrorists.
Oh my God. There is nothing better than when a host I think it has to be the host. If another comic does it that isn't, hugely famous or something, it looks a little bit in bad taste. But when a host just goes up and goes, hey, what's going on? That to me, I love that. I absolutely love that. Jared, I can't thank you enough for doing this. I feel like I could talk to you all night about comedy. But look at you. Who is that? Oh
That was
my God.
that was the night I did a stand up my eye.
Oh my God.
Imagine
Dude,
people watching that. Imagine people watching that. Me telling jokes like that the whole time.
wow. That is a real testament to you as a comic. That is really something. Please tell people, I know you're doing a million things. You're running around the city like a madman, and you have Training Day comedy show. Tell people where they can find that on social media, where they can find you.
All right. If you're on Instagram, on Twitter, my name is Mr. Waters. It's Mr. Waters. As I'm the black dude on the horse. So if you're trying to find out which Waters it is, there's the black dude on the horse. If you like podcasts, I have a podcast. It's about being alone with your own thoughts. It's a time capsule of a person. So we bring people and make a time capsule. It's like, what if your grandparents had their thoughts? If you had your grandparents' thoughts when they were 30 or when they were 20. So we do that and take someone's intimate thoughts and make a time capsule. The podcast is called One Man, One Tree in a Hill. That's what it's called. And when we can't do that, we review One Tree Hill episodes. And that and when we can't do that, we'll review a One Tree Hill episode. But yeah, shout out to Collin. Appreciate you, man. Did dope on our show and stuff like that. I love the guys in the city, man. The guys that beat the road that are finally here. It's good.
Thanks, man. Thanks. It was a real pleasure talking to you, and I'm sure I'll see you out and about.